Important things about this house is also cheaper, and that's the white roof. Right? The white roof is very important because the white reflects the sunlight, right? But in other houses like that one over there, all these ones, almost all of them, not that one there, that one also has a white roof, but almost all the new homes have a colored roof. In fact, these chocolate brown roofs are the most popular right now, chocolate brown. But that's actually the worst color that you could pick because a chocolate brown roof will absorb all the light that hits it, right? And all that light that's absorbed turns to heat. And half of that heat, at least, radiates down into your house, right? So it makes the house hot, right? So it's a really bad idea to have a chocolate brown roof. It's much better to have a white roof.
So any color, dark color, it's not good.
Any dark color is bad.
So light colors.
Yeah, light
So,
colors, but the
here,
best
no
one, in
color?
fact, the only color you really should use is white.
So your roof has no color?
No,
No color, it's natural,
it's just white.
white galvanized?
Yeah, white galvanized iron. So really, actually, that's the cheapest kind of roofing.
Yeah.
White galvanized iron is cheaper than all these colored. Right, so it's actually cheaper and better. But you know, people just they pick a popular color because they don't know any better, and they're not taught. You know, in our schools, I don't know why, but in our schools we don't teach what's actually important. We don't teach what's actually important. So I don't know where people are supposed to get this information, but we don't teach it. So that's the problem. Lights on during the day. You could turn a few lights on now. But really, it's pretty bright anyway. Yeah, you wouldn't have to turn on any lights, even today. It's really as dark today, out now. But yeah, so the light comes in here, but it's just an indirect light. The skylight comes in. And then the air can blow through. You know, if you open all of these windows, then the air really flows. We had shut them off because of the... We had shut all these because of the rain.
So, lusot-lusot siya ang hangin na kay tungod sa mga vents ba, na yung mga bintanilya. So, ano niyo, kini bintanilya ba?
Yeah, like that.
Vents siya.
Yeah, those let the air out. You don't see it just looking on this side, but really it's kind of narrow, and that's what gives it the boat-like appearance. It's kind of narrow and long. So the narrowness of it makes the air flow through it more easily because it doesn't have as much room to travel through the house. And it's high to catch the breeze, and it's kind of narrow also because the sun comes up over here and sets over here, right? So the sun mostly just hits the roof. If the sun came up over on this side, it would be really bad. This would be a terrible house. Because then the sun's light in the mid-morning would just come right against this flat wall here, and it would be terrible because it would heat up that whole side of the house, and all the sun's rays would go into those windows. So it's just really the positioning of the house really that makes a lot of difference. So it's nothing high-tech, right? You just have to orient your house so that you minimize the amount of sunlight that's coming in the windows. You don't want to have direct sunlight coming in the windows. Most people don't know anything about these things, right? So they end up with a house that's very uncomfortable often. But if we just knew more about the natural natural world God gave us, if we knew more about it, which people used to in the past know more about it, now they don't hardly even know what direction the sun comes up in. So it's awful difficult for people to know what to do now. They're so removed from the natural world that it's hard for people. That's why we need to learn more about what God actually gave us.
Excuse me, sir. What can you say about the cost of this house compared to the?
Well, the cost of this house is more than most houses, but that's just because it's bigger,
Yes.
right? So it's bigger than most houses, so it costs more. But per square meter, it's about the same as everybody else's home. There's no, in fact, it might be a little cheaper because there's features in this house that are cheaper than normal. For instance, those jealousy windows I was telling you about, they're cheaper than the casement windows, right? Then we don't use air conditioning, so that's cheaper, of course, than having air conditioning because you don't have to buy all the air conditioner units, right? So things like that make this house relatively inexpensive per square meter, but it's more than most people would pay because it's bigger, you know. So that's what I have to explain to people, because the cost of it is more than most people would have. But you could have a smaller house using these same features. In fact, you know, in the past that's what people had, smaller houses that had the same features, like these jealousy windows plus the grills. You know, I didn't know anything about that technique until I moved to the Philippines, right? It's a Filipino technique, but they've forgotten it. So architects now don't use it anymore because they think the one coming from America is better.
Modern.
You know, they think that that's modern and better and more high-tech. But that's actually wrong, right? It's actually wrong. It's not better. It's worse than the one you already have yourselves. So that's the lesson that you need to learn. You need to learn that not everything that comes from the United States is better. In fact, most of it is actually worse. Most of what we get from the United States is worse than what you already have here. So that's the big lesson I try to teach people. And what we really need to do now is look back on the older homes and the older ways of doing things and bring those into the modern homes, and not just adopt what they use in the United States, because the United States, formed in an era when the United States had very cheap fossil fuels. So they had very cheap energy and very cheap electricity, so they could do a lot of things that are inappropriate to do today. Because now, not only here, but everywhere, even in the United States, energy costs are very high.
Yes.
But we're adopting the techniques that America developed when energy costs were very low, right? So it's really the wrong thing to do at the wrong time, or it's the right thing to do at the wrong time. Right now, we have to look back at the Filipino way of doing things and bring that into the modern homes. Really, that's my lesson.